the worldviews that communities have always held and practiced for centuries. And so that's why it's really crucial that the rights of nature movement is talking about and transforming in terms of how we see the world, not just of how we relate with nature, but how we govern ourselves, how we organize our economies, and how do we live this life as humans. And so I want to share by grounding ourselves in one of very powerful and transformative examples from India, where I think the slides are not ready, but I'll start with a story. And this story is from Central India. Oh, thank you, darling. And I want to start with a story from Central India, where as a young environment activist and researcher when I went there, and I was trying to ask why are they resisting against a mining project, and why they feel that mining is not going to offer them a good life, and why they want to protect their forest. And an indigenous elder there responded to me saying that of course we can go to a nearby city and live our lives and maybe have jobs, maybe have cement, concrete houses just like you guys have. But for us, it's important to think about where will the birds in the forest go? Where will the spirits of the forest go? Where will the animals of the forest go? And for me, it was a realization that for what they were arguing, what they were fighting, was not just about, it was not just about, you move forward. Yeah, I think that's good. You move forward. That it was not just about the humans who are living in that landscape, that it was so much larger and so much more about a more than human community that they all inhabited. But along with this strong resistance to a mining company that they continue to do so at this moment as well, a lot of deliberations went around, how do we actually think about reviving some of our customary governance systems, but actually working towards more self-determined, self-governed systems of decision-making. And that led to a very powerful formation of 87 village assemblies in this territory of Kochi in central India, where they organized based on the bioregions of that area and tried to self-govern while the state institutions exist, realizing that the resistance can go only as much. We have to take control over our everyday decision-making of how we relate to the forest. An important argument that the mining companies were making, that we will offer you jobs, we need to provide an alternative, that we don't need your jobs, but we can create our jobs wherever we are. And we can create those jobs by protecting our forest, we can create our livelihoods by nurturing the communities and cultures that we live in, and we can create a better life, not what the development offers us, but a life of well-being and good living that we create by being and living in our forest. And so what I'm trying to articulate with this powerful example is an example of or an initiative that started with protection of nature, with arguing for rights of nature, or arguing for more than community, didn't really stay till the point of just articulating for the protection of this forest. It was about self-governance, it was about organizing different forms of economy, it was about asserting that within even our societies, while we are fighting for justice from the state, our societies are not just. And so women, who are always in the forefront of the resistance, are actually never really part of the decision making. So the whole movement within the communities to assert women's right and women's voice in the movement. So henceforth, this very powerful example from India highlights that we're living in the times of intertwined crisis. As we know, all of us have experienced it and live it. We need intertwined responses. We need collaborative responses. Our struggles cannot be separated. They have to be together. We have to come together and fight those struggles. And I want to highlight that through these responses, what is essential is Galo, can we move to the next slide? What is essential is to look at our responses in form of resistance, which all of us are involved in, towards state domination, capitalism, patriarchy, and in many forms communities have been resisting, but also in the next slide, but also our resistance through the alternatives that are being created, that are being practiced, that are being lived for centuries or innovated now by communities across the world. And the reason for this map being here is one, to first start decolonizing our minds, our frameworks, our ways of seeing the world, but also to highlight that it's happening across the world, the possibilities of transformative potential of living a different life is going on around the world. But somehow, even in our movements, even in our discussions and discourses, we are not able to strengthen and collaborate enough. So it's really essential for all of these movements, for all of these struggles to be together, and that we understand our realities better. We are not divided, we are not working in silos. And in that sense, what we've been trying to articulate is emerging from the struggles in India, but also relevant for maybe struggles all over the world, is the flower of transformation, where our transformation towards justice, if we broadly imagine, through 5 spheres of life, like direct delegated democracy, rights of nature, economic democracy, social justice, well-being, cultural diversity, cultural democracy, all of these are interrelated, interconnected. And so when we're thinking about justice and transformations, they have to speak to each other. And through this flower of transformation, what we see is that it is grounded in these ideas, in these important connections of values. We are all sitting here in Amazonia, we are from different parts of the world. There are really different contexts that we all live in, but there's something that brings us all together here. And these are values, worldviews that communities, people, as believing in transformative potential of the world, hold together. And I think that's what brings and grounds for many of our struggles together. And so for rights of nature to be truly transformative, to truly transform those systems we are living in, we propose the following things, which is that we need to talk about radical democracy, not seeking of transformations from the state, but seeking transformations from the ground. And so putting our optics at the grassroots struggles and communities where people have had struggles of autonomy and self-determination for a long time and continue to do so, which is also talking beyond nation states and respecting the continuity of nature, respecting the laws of nature, which Kuben was talking about, and localization and democratization of economies ourselves, because we cannot talk about radical democracy if we continue to mine our territories. So it has to do with our new visions for economies, and within those struggles, human rights struggles, which our leaders earlier session very powerfully articulated, that there are no rights of nature if we are not talking about human rights together. And henceforth, our approaches to the whole movement have to be decolonial, they have to talk about commons, and all our struggles have to be in connection with each other. And as we were speaking about earlier, that we have to talk about a new form of governance emerging from the struggles of early governance, where different forms of autonomy, customary laws, practices, the plurality of which exist across the world, we are able to respect those, and they're provided the adequate recognition that they need. And as I was saying, that the values that ground us of rights and responsibilities, of simplicity, sufficiency, enoughness, trust, these are the values that put our struggles together, and how in the rights of nature movement and the struggles of transformation, these become the parts and rootedness of all our work. And so through a network, through a movement of global tapestry of alternatives, we are trying to build that struggle, we are trying to build that connection together. Worldviews that celebrate lives, the movements that can come together and work together. Rights of nature becomes one important element of it, but there's a broader struggle for autonomy, democracy that emerges through all those collectives. And so also just an urge to everybody who is sitting here that tomorrow we are hosting a very important conversation around radical democracy and climate justice, and that there's no conversation on rights of nature and climate justice without talking about radical democracy. And so I'll end my conversation here and submission here, and I hope judges could take account some of the comments being made. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shrishtee. The connection between radical ecology and radical democracy resonates to one of my favorite authors, Murray Bookchin, an ecological and environmental anarchist. I was trying to think beyond the state, so how ecosystems can be actually a space for municipal democracy. I mean, the Global Tapestry Alternative works a lot on the experiences of the Zapatista and the Rojava, and I think they are very inspiring cases for us. So the next presentation will be about el Pacto Ecosocial Intercultural del Sur. Será Gabriela Cabañas a presentar. Inicialmente tenía que ser Dano Bringer, que con nuestra jueza querida Maristela Rampa desarrolló el concepto del consenso de la descarbonización. Dos cosas solamente. Aquí antes hemos hablado de las alternativas de gobernanza. Las alternativas de gobernanza se fundan en la capacidad de construir nuevas redes, alianzas, movimientos transversales como la que